Solid Waste session number 4, Organizing for the Future. My name is Richard Anthony. I'm the session chair. This session is about putting together organizations to put on our journey to zero waste. Our first speaker is Adi Vaishnav, who is the head of the Gaia USA Canada organization. Adi's been around the organizational movement for many years through Gaia and leads a major program throughout the world, setting up a zero waste master plan and master planning for grassroots organizations.
Hi everyone, my name is Aditi Varshney and I'm really excited to be speaking here. I am the Zero Waste Communities Coordinator for the US-Canada region of the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, or Gaia, and I'm also a community organizer based here in New York City. Gaia is a worldwide alliance of more than 800 grassroots groups, NGOs, and individuals in more than 90 countries. With our work, we aim to catalyze a global shift towards environmental justice by strengthening grassroots social movements that advance solutions to waste and pollution. We really envision a just zero waste world that's built on respect for ecological limits and community rights, where people are free from the burden of toxic pollution and the resources are sustainably conserved and not burned or dumped. We see waste and its resulting pollution as a symptom of a larger profit-driven and extractive economy, and we promote zero waste as a holistic solution and economic shift towards justice and sustainability. So I'm going to be talking today about zero waste communities in the United States. You can read about the case studies that I'm going to mention today and many, many more at zerowasteworld.org/ZWMP, where you will find our zero waste master plan, which we released last year. It looks at zero waste cities around the United States and has advice and a menu of options for cities who are seeking to achieve zero waste in a way that is grounded in social justice. So to take a look at where zero waste is at in the United States, our nationwide diversion rate is at about 34%, though it varies between municipalities. Today, we're going to be looking at case studies from Boston, Boulder, and San Francisco. As of 2015, Boston's diversion rate was 25%. In Boulder, it was above the nationwide average at 57, and San Francisco is a clear leader in zero waste in the country and around the world with a diversion rate of 80%. So we'll be looking at different components of zero waste in each of these cities. To get an idea of the programs being implemented that not only target specific generators and materials to decrease waste and increase diversion, but that also aim to create good jobs and support other social goals in the process. So we'll start off looking at a case study in Boulder, Colorado. So peer-to-peer influence has been a really powerful tool in building zero waste communities. And the city of Boulder partners with EcoCycle, which is a Gaia member and a local mission-based recycler, to provide one-on-one training and support for residents to become eco-leaders in their multifamily complexes. The program also provides in-depth group training on many issues and tours of local waste facilities. Eco-leaders serve as neighborhood educational resources, so they distribute information and answer common questions about residential waste management. But they also serve as liaisons between their communities and EcoCycle, providing feedback about the recycling and composting services in their communities, offering suggestions for service improvement based on what they're hearing from their communities, and providing updates on the implementation that they see around them. Boulder's eco-leaders help residents understand how to use municipal zero waste services and help cities design more effective zero waste programs by adapting them then to the community needs. So they're a really great tool to liaise between all the different entities that are required to make a successful zero waste system. Um, EcoCycle is also building zero waste communities in partnership with local school districts through its Green Star Schools program. So with guidance from EcoCycle, Green Star Schools reduce waste by addressing every part of the school's waste stream, from waste generated in classrooms to cafeterias. Zero waste education is a major component of the program as well. And so by working with students and faculty and staff and parents, so the whole community of the school, EcoCycle has helped the Green Star schools divert up to 2/3 of its discards towards recycling and composting, and also fostered waste diversion habits and that these school communities will carry with them for life. Um, in 2020, EcoCycle and the city of Boulder celebrated a really big milestone with all 27 public schools in the city now part of the program. So the city of Boulder now has the distinction of being the first city in the US to have zero waste programs in a comprehensive way available to all its public school students, all the way from preschool through high school graduation, which is a really great achievement that um, can be replicated in other cities as well. So the city of Boulder is also a good case study in handling hard to recycle materials, um, which make up about 10 to 15% of the waste stream here and include many durable products like electronics and mattresses and appliances. These materials can be challenging to recycle, as you know, because they have limited or immature end markets or really strict market specifications, or their recycling costs can be higher than revenues may be sometimes. So EcoCycle launched the Center for Hard to Recycle Materials, or CHARM, in 2001. It will now accept 24 types of materials, and they look to incorporate one more material into its program each year. And this facility processed over or recovered over 5 million pounds of materials in 2019. They have self-haul and business pickups, so lots of opportunities to use the facility. The facility is financially supported by the municipality, the city of Boulder, but they also gain revenue from facility and materials fees from drop-offs. And many of the materials that come through the facility also have local recycling and reuse partners, resulting in even more green jobs, which is a really crucial hook in engaging communities and ensuring that zero waste programs are achieving all the benefits they have the potential to achieve, and in convincing cities to invest in them. The facility also works with Blue Star recyclers to hire adult employees who are on the autism spectrum, whose neurodivergence often means they're able to accurately and painstakingly separate material components in electronics, as well as another company that employs disenfranchised workers, including people who have previously been in prison. So community education, the participation of institutions like schools and facilities to collect hard to recycle materials have been key towards zero waste progress in Boulder. So now let's take a look at another city, San Francisco, which I'm sure many people have heard of as a leader in the zero waste space. San Francisco is doing a great job in terms of its city government leading by example. The city government contributes 15% of the city's waste stream and actively leads in reducing and managing its own waste. Mayoral directives have required city agencies to start participating in zero waste initiatives before matching policies are implemented citywide. The city also operates a virtual warehouse, which takes in reusables like furniture and office supplies from city-owned property that other departments and schools and nonprofits may reuse. So this has the additional benefit of also reducing disposal and purchasing costs for the city as an institution. Every city agency also has a zero waste coordinator to report on internal waste management and communicate with dedicated staff at the Department of Environment tasked with implementing waste within the municipal operations. So these are steps that other institutions can also take in, using their significant purchasing power to lead by example, and holding a significant part of a waste stream and taking accountability over that and taking steps on their own. And the United States is also seeing a lot of progress in university campuses with student organizers like the Post Landfill Action Network, having universities as institutions sign pledges to reduce single-use plastic by a certain date, which often influences change in the surrounding community outside the university as well. Back to San Francisco, to increase compliance with the city's mandatory recycling and organic separation ordinance, the city began requiring large generators, the multi-unit uh, housing buildings, office buildings, hotels, and city buildings that contribute 20% of the city's landfill waste. They required them to conduct a recycling, composting, and trash audit every 3 years. And so audits every 3 years will receive a pass when these large buildings contamination levels are lower than 5% for compostables, lower than 10% for recyclables, and lower than 25% for mixed waste. Buildings that fail the stringent compliance audit are required to hire what they call on-site zero waste facilitators, which can be compared to sort of janitors, property managers at their own expense for 1 year, or face substantial fines. So this is a strong financial incentive that buildings are facing for diversion. So these zero waste facilitators are trained individuals that help property managers comply with ordinances and reduce building refuse costs. They also educate and provide feedback to tenants and staff to improve collection efficiency and conduct back of house sorting to reduce recycling and compost contamination. This is especially helpful because these financial incentives can be tricky to pass on to tenants in multifamily units. So having someone in the building to directly engage with the individuals residing within a building can be helpful. This new requirement had really strong union support because of its great job creation potential. So yeah, providing targeted support and financial incentives to help large waste generators comply with source separation policies has allowed San Francisco to create good green jobs while advancing its zero waste goal. So to take a look at another city, we can look at Boston. So we're going to be talking about organics. So 1/3 of curbside waste in the United States is compostable. And Gaia has been lucky to work with Cero, which is a bilingual Spanish-English worker-owned composting cooperative that is moving Boston towards its zero waste goals while also building stronger communities. So in 2015, Boston's diversion rate was under 25%. But what's more troubling is the city's stark income inequality. While the median wealth of white households was $247,000, Dominican and African American households had a median wealth of close to zero. Cero, which means zero in Spanish, is a zero waste business which tackles these issues head on by creating dignified and well-paid work that also provides with the city with the services that it sorely needs to get on track with its zero waste goals and with its climate goals. So it's a great example of a closed loop food system taking place here in Boston, with businesses and nonprofits working together to advance zero waste, but also food security and workers' rights. One of ZWIA's customers is Mei, which is a family-owned Chinese American restaurant that sees its business as a vehicle for social change. I think it's a really interesting case study because they serve locally grown food at a reasonable cost, provide their employees with education and empowerment training, and work to avoid food waste in their kitchens. So they incorporate food scraps into recipes, provide low-cost food to employees through a wholesale program. They donate what can't be used, and then they have Zero pick up the rest for composting. So their partnership represents a perfect food loop. They source some of its food, this restaurant, directly from some of the same local farms that use the compost from its food waste. Zero also partners with Green City Growers, an edible landscaping and urban farming business that's converting unused spaces to places where food is grown. So revitalizing underused city landscapes and inspiring self-sufficiency in urban areas. So not only does Zero collect plant waste from Green City growers to turn into compost, it also delivers the compost made from that waste back to Green City growers to enrich their soil. Zero also serves Daily Table, which is a nonprofit grocery store that collects donated goods from manufacturers, stores, and farms like Green City growers, and offers them to low-income communities at affordable prices. So after distribution, Zero collects leftover food and composts it so that nothing is wasted. So these waste-conscious businesses and nonprofits are working together to show the promise of sustainable zero waste food systems that are rooted in social justice. And, you know, when we talk about another world as possible, a zero waste world as possible, I think this is a really inspiring model that could be replicated in other cities and shows a number of different players who are involved in creating a more sustainable and socially just world while providing good jobs and being self-sustaining. Zero connects all of these efforts together, and they're helping Boston reach its ambitious goals that they have set forth in their zero waste plan, while transforming Boston into a place where both workers and communities can thrive. So yeah, these waste conscious businesses and nonprofits, these institutions leading the way, these schools and nonprofit recyclers, you know, they're examples of some of the communities across the US that are advancing zero waste and showing how it has the potential to be far more than a means towards environmental goals, but rather a holistic tool of social intervention towards well-being for all. So you can read more about these case studies and see how zero waste is working in the United States, and look at many, many others as well by looking up Gaia US Canada's Zero Waste Master Plan, or was visiting zerowasteworld.org/ZWMP. ZeroWasteWorld.org also features a number of other case studies of zero waste cities from around the world. It was put together by the Gaia Global Network. So thank you so much.
Sonia Mendoza. Sonia Mendoza is the head of Mother Earth Foundation. She has been around this movement for many, many years. Sonia and I actually met in Wales at the turn of the century when we started to establish the Zero Waste International Alliance. Mother Earth has been a leader in terms of organizing. They were the first country to ban incineration, and her barangay neighborhood recycling programs is something for everybody to emulate. Let's talk Sonia Mendoza.
Hi, this is Sonia Mendoza of Mother Earth Foundation, Philippines. Mother Earth Foundation is a non-stop, nonprofit NGO actively engaged in addressing waste and toxic pollution, climate change, and other health and environmental justice issues. We are best known for its community-based advocacy of zero waste. It has lectured, trained, and conducted workshops in different levels of local government units, schools, and various sectors of society to promote ecological waste management. We are a member of the Eco Waste Coalition Philippines, Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, International POPs Elimination Network, Zero Waste International Alliance, and a founding member of the Break Free from Plastic movement. We have a beautiful law on ecological solid waste management here in our country. It's a decentralization of waste management. It's called the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000. It is a decentralization of waste management to the smallest unit of government, the barangay, which has an elected head and a council. It mandates source segregation and materials recovery facility in every barangay, no segregation, no collection policy, the closure of all dump sites, and ban on incineration and open burning. But sadly, this law has not been strictly implemented. There are still about 400 dump sites in the country. So this is an ideal materials recovery facility for a barangay. Number 1 is the eco shed. Number 6, the compost heap for biodegradables. Number 6, the compost pit for the biodegradables. Number 7 is the compost heap for agricultural waste. We have on number 4, our collection vehicle, which is just a push cart. It's not a truck, because in barangays, the households are close to each other, and the big truck cannot sometimes enter on a very narrow road. And we have organic garden as an offshoot of the composting. And we have number 8, a containment area for residuals. Well, the responsibilities under a decentralized system, in the household, there is source segregation. We can sell the recyclables and compose the organics. And in the village, has to collect the segregated waste, the source segregated waste. It can sell also the recyclables from the MRF and compose organics in a composting area. And the city will just have to collect the residual and special wastes. The typical waste stream, the organics, recyclable, residuals, and special waste. The waste profile in our country, there are 63% biodegradables, recyclables is 15%, residuals 14%, special residuals at 8%. And the recyclables and the biodegradables can be addressed by composting and recycling. And the residuals and special residuals for redesign, research, and regulations. What we do, Mother Earth Foundation establishes zero waste model cities, communities to help other communities build their own zero waste villages. We conduct waste audit and brand audit, or WABA, in all our project sites. We also organize Zero Waste Academy together with Gaia. We have zero waste stores using the alternative delivery system. We participate in and organize local and international conferences. We are presenters, speakers on ecological solid waste management with emphasis on no incineration to local government units, schools, business establishments, and civic organizations. We are also resource persons in hearings on the environment, plastic pollution, waste management in both houses of Congress. For Mother Earth Foundation and other environmental NGOs working on solid waste, zero waste solutions are the fastest and most economical in solving solid waste problems. The zero waste projects of Mother Earth Foundation, the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, has been a zero waste model city since 2012. Barangay Fort Bonifacio, Taguig City in Metro Manila, And it's been a zero waste model barangay since 2012. Also, Barangay Potrero in Malabon City is a zero waste model barangay in 2016. And now we are working on the whole cities of Malabon and Navotas in Metro Manila. We also have Batangas City and the province, Siquijor Province, an island province in central Philippines. And Apo Island, an island barangay in central Philippines, in partnership with War on Waste, BFFP Negros Oriental. Zero waste transforms communities. Before, this was the scenario of Barangay Fort Bonifacio in Metro Manila. This is a main thoroughfare. And the residents just threw their garbage on the street. And after they adopted the project, this is now how it looks. It has an herbal garden, it has an eco park, and a materials recovery facility at the back of the sidewalk because they have no space in their very densely populated barangay. In a zero waste project, 100% of the households are covered with an information, education, and communication campaign on how to handle, properly segregate and handle their waste. There is door-to-door segregated collection. The waste collectors are trained to look at the proper source segregation of the waste in each household. Residents are trained on livelihood programs using materials from waste, and the number of city trucks are greatly reduced from collecting waste from the barangay. The city of San Fernando, Pampanga has 35 barangays, urban and rural, a population of about 348,000, and a daytime population of 1 million plus because it's the capital city of the province of Pampanga. It has 103 materials recovery facilities or MRFs. The law requires only one per barangay, but it has 103 MRFs because the villages and schools have established their MRFs. The city has a plastic bag ban in 2017, and it has 96.5% compliance. The waste diversion rate in 2012, before the project started, was a measly 12%. After 6 months, it went up to 53%, and up to now, up to last year, it was 80.2%, the highest in the country. The solid waste management expense in 2012 for the city was 70 million pesos or $1.4 million per year. In 2014, it went down to 15 million pesos or $300,000 per year. Here is the city transfer station for residual waste and the central city composting area. And examples of MRFs in urban areas in San Fernando, very simple MRFs. This depends upon the profiling of the barangay on how big your MRF should be. The recyclables are properly segregated. The city was recognized for working towards a zero waste world at the International Zero Waste Cities Conference in 2019 in Penang, Malaysia. In the story of plastic film, the programs and initiatives of the city in battling against plastic pollution were included in the film's highlights. This is Malabon City in Metro Manila. It has 21 urban barangays with a population of about 366,000. There are now 18 MRFs in the city. And this barangay, Dampalit, at the right is a model barangay. It has the biogas facility. This used to be a dump site. And here are examples of other materials recovery facilities. For Navotas City, a city also in Metro Manila, it has 18 urban barangays, about 250,000 population, We have now 9 MRFs in the city. Here are the examples of those MRFs. And Batangas City, a port city 100 kilometers south of Metro Manila, they have 105 barangays, but we are working only on 30 barangays, the city and coastal barangays. We have conducted 5 WABAs already, waste assessment and brand audits. And there are 18 operational MRFs and 12 MRFs for improvement. Scaling up to a province model, the province of Siquijor is an island. Siquijor is an island province in central Philippines, and it comprises 6 municipalities. They have a plastic ordinance covering the whole province. It has 134 barangays. Now there are 78 MRFs there and the population of 96,000. We have conducted WABA for the 5 municipalities. Examples of MRFs in rural areas. There can be vermicomposting or simple composting. Of course, every MRF has containment area for residuals. These are samples also of rural area MRFs. And we have a mobile MRF for exhibit. This was exhibited at the Philippine Senate 4 years ago. Now, what is a waste audit? In the cleanups of the coastal cleanups, sometimes they just gather the waste and weigh them and report the results. But a waste audit is a methodical process of collecting and analyzing waste to determine the amount and types of waste that are generated. So it's a better cleanup. And then a brand audit is an added component of a waste audit and looks at the specific brands and the companies that are producing these wastes. This was initiated by Mother Earth Foundation in 2016, and a toolkit was developed for this in partnership with Gaia and the Break Free from Plastic movement. This toolkit was further improved by different groups and is being used in global coastal cleanups. In our brand audits in the Philippines, top 10 companies are mentioned here producing residual waste in the Philippines. Freedom Island is just one area, and the zero waste cities, there were 6 cities and 7 municipalities. And you can see that companies producing residual waste are almost the same for both areas. Now, the Zero Waste Academy is an immersive course aimed at capacitating project implementers and key stakeholders on how to implement a zero waste program in the respective cities and communities. Designed by Mother Earth Foundation and Gaia, the course covers a mix of lectures, like what is zero waste, waste management laws, incineration as a false solution, hands-on exercises like composting techniques, waste assessment, and brand audit, and community profiling. And also writing sessions, preparing a solid waste management plan, and designing collection routes. We have conducted 3 Zero Waste Academy already. One in 2017 in Malabon City, Philippines. It was attended by 16 participants from Gaia partners in Indonesia, Malaysia, India, and the Philippines, who all went on to begin their zero waste city model building in their respective communities. Another one was held in 2018 in Dumaguete City. There were also 25 participants from Dumaguete and the surrounding areas. And in November to December 2018, another one was organized in Quezon City by Mother Earth Foundation and Gaia. There were 25 Gaia members from all over the globe. Participants were from Tanzania, Taiwan, India, Indonesia, Tunisia, USA, Vietnam, Ghana, South Africa, Albania, Morocco, and the Philippines. And now the Zero Waste Academy online. It is an online course that will cover the same course content on the basics of how to implement a zero waste program, but delivered on a virtual platform. This project was developed in response to the growing need for training on zero waste program implementation amid physical restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pilot launch in January 2021 is intended for a Philippine audience, and this is a 7-week program. The next online academy is intended for a regional, global audience, depending on the outcome of the pilot project. Now, the Zero Waste Store, which we call Juana Zero. Juana is a Philippine name for a woman in the Philippines. The man is called Juan, and so the woman is Juana. So we call it Juana Zero. The Zero Waste Shop of Mother Earth Foundation was one step closer to achieving its goal of making more people embrace a zero waste lifestyle when a local sari-sari store owner started adopting their zero waste business practices. A sari-sari store is a very small store in a barangay selling the basic needs of the residents. A part of the advocacy of Mother Earth Foundation as an organization is to offer the zero waste store, especially in our project sites, where we still see residual waste composed of single-use plastics, despite the community's awareness of the importance of segregation. An important part of the program is to establish an alternative delivery system that offers eco-friendly and reasonably priced products. Juana Zero also serves another noble purpose. All its proceeds go to Mother Earth Foundation's Waste Workers Scholarship Fund to help the unsung heroes of zero waste by providing scholarships and financing their children's education expenses. The store's profits also financed 2 of the foundation's projects that assisted communities during the COVID-19 lockdown. A community kitchen cooked food for the waste workers and the distribution of zero waste kits that contained a reusable face mask and gloves, vitamins, and vegetables. This is a glimpse of our zero waste store. In bulk are cooking oil, soy sauce, vinegar, and fish sauce. And we have bamboo cutleries, bamboo cups, and water bottles here. And we were also able to organize 2 international zero waste conferences. One was in 2009 in Puerto Princesa, Palawan, in partnership with ZWIA, with the Zero Waste International Alliance. You can see Dr. Paul Connet at the back, because he's the tallest. So here, members of ZWIA, and we are still in active contact up to now. The president of ZWIA is Rick Anthony in the middle. This is in Palawan in 2009. And another one, Mother Earth Foundation and Gaia organized in 2017 an international zero waste conference in Quezon City in Metro Manila in partnership with the Zero Waste International Alliance, ZWIA, the Eco Waste Coalition, the Healthcare Without Harm, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Oak Foundation, and Microtel. This was held for many days, and another offsite for the conference was San Fernando City in Pampanga. And we have attended conferences, local and international. Here you can see the president of Mother Earth Foundation and the coordinator of Gaia Asia Pacific, Froilan Grate, speaking at the Our Ocean Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2016, where President Obama, then President Obama, was in attendance, and two program managers of Mother Earth Foundation in a local and an international conference. And in 2015, Zero Waste France organized an NGO conference at the same time as the Climate Change Summit in Paris for the Paris Accord and Mother Earth Foundation was a speaker then. And we attended also the Our Ocean Conference in Bali, Indonesia in October 2018, and some local conferences. And we attended the International Zero Waste Cities Conference. We attended and participated in the International Zero Waste Cities Conference in Penang, Malaysia in 2019. Here are the participants. And this is an invitation from the House of Representatives for Mother Earth to attend a technical working group on the Committee on Ecology on single-use plastics. We are always invited by both houses of Congress to be resource persons in hearings or technical working groups on the issue of environment, incineration, plastic pollution, and waste management. And here is a meeting between Dr. Paul Connet and the President of the Philippine Senate at the Senate of the Philippines with Mother Earth Foundation, Eco Waste Coalition, and No Burn Pilipinas. In the afternoon after this meeting, Dr. Paul Connet was a speaker at the Senate hearing on sustainable development goals. And of course, he spoke on why incineration is not the solution to solid waste management and go for zero waste. And I presented the Mother Earth Foundation's zero waste projects as a solution to the waste problem. And finally, let's leave our children a living planet. Now I conclude my presentation and I'm open for Q&A, or question and answer.
Zero Waste Europe has been a focus in organizing Europe. Jack McQuibbin represents Zero Waste Europe. In the last 10 years, Zero Waste Europe has become a major organizational force for the zero waste movement and influencing decisions in the European Union. Jack works out of Brussels and has years of experience in terms of international policy.
Hi there. Welcome to my presentation. My name is Jack McQuibbin. I am the Zero Waste Cities Program Coordinator at Zero Waste Europe. I am based here in sunny Brussels at the moment, in Belgium, and I'm originally from the UK, and it's a pleasure to be able to record this session for all of those participants at the conference today. My presentation is going to focus on, I guess, three main aspects. What zero waste is to us at Zero Waste Europe, what the Zero Waste Cities model really is, the benefits it brings to local municipalities, and then finally to showcase a few examples from different parts around Europe of where the Zero Waste Cities approach has been successfully applied in a range of contexts. So to start with, a little bit about Zero Waste Europe. We are an NGO based, as I said, here in Brussels. We have a mix of sort of different member organizations. We have 31 members in 24 countries inside and outside the European Union. And our work is really a mix of top down. So obviously being based in Brussels, we have a unique position to advocate and to lobby for ambitious waste legislation at the European Union level. But then also our approach involves supporting a bottom-up approach, whereby we mentor cities and support the transition towards a zero-waste future at the community level, and doing this so in partnership with our members who themselves work with municipalities locally and at the national level across Europe. So how do we define zero waste? Because it's an exciting term. It's grown in popularity and in recognition over the past few years, of course, mixed, as has the urgency and the need and the recognition to tackle the climate crisis, but also the biodiversity loss, the mass extinction, which is all due to basically our unsustainable relationship with the way we consume and produce materials, which is where zero waste comes in. So this is the zero waste hierarchy. I'm sure most participants are very familiar with this already. This is our zero waste hierarchy. So obviously the refuse, rethink and redesign upstream measures at the top as the most preferable options. But however, what's kind of sets us apart sometimes and what we've advocate strongly for is zero waste really has an unacceptable level of material sort of treatment and disposal methods. And for example, obviously there are against materials being sent for landfilling, but also increasingly here in Europe, but around the world, more and more high-tech new technologies are coming, which burning waste for various energy or fuels, pyrolysis, for example, the burning of plastic. And so whilst most often companies, sometimes governments even, promote these as sustainable options, that's simply not true. And they are unacceptable because, first and foremost, it perpetuates this cycle, the continued need to feeding waste. So, for example, a local municipality, if they have a 10, 20, sometimes a 30-year contract with a waste incinerator, therefore, there needs to be this continued flow of waste, simply put, to maintain profits, to maintain the capacity is met of the incinerator. And often these cost billions of euros, pounds, dollars. And so, they're investments that people don't want to go to waste. So once these incinerators are built and these contracts are made, the municipality is simply sort of being forced to continue feeding it waste. And therefore, there's no incentive to really tackle the volume of waste that's being generated and to get more ambitious plans implemented and work further up the zero waste hierarchy. And this ranges, as I mentioned, waste to energy incineration, co-incineration, plastic to fuels, gasification, all these methods that promote sustainability, but in fact, maintain the lock-in effect for the continued need to generate waste. And also the energy that is generated is extremely inefficient, produces high volumes of greenhouse gases as well. For example, waste to energy incineration still needs energy to run. It's not a sort of a carbon neutral or a sustainable method, for example. So this is just one key distinction that we advocate for at Zero Waste Europe, and we really try and push because, and very excitingly, more and more European Union leaders and therefore legislation to reflect this is changing to recognize that funding should no longer be given for sustainable projects, which include waste to energy incinerations. So, for example, we've had incinerators refuse to be to access these kinds of funds in places like Belgrade and Bucharest recently. So how does zero waste compare to traditional waste management? Traditional waste management often is centralized in an area far away from the source of the waste generation. It's often very expensive, capital intensive. As I mentioned before, the end result is often burning, simply landfilling waste, and it continues to lock in this need, this continued need to generate wastes, and therefore no incentive to truly tackle the issue, which is the amount of waste that's generated, and therefore the amount of resources that we need to continue feeding our lifestyles. And so how does zero waste differ? Zero waste takes power away from a central authority at the national or regional level and puts it into the hands of communities. Local municipalities have the power to decide and work with the community key stakeholders to look at, to apply the zero waste approach and tailor it to the local context, matching the needs of the local economy and society and the culture to ensure that the system can work most efficiently. Zero waste is much more job intensive, it creates labor intensive, it creates more jobs in sustainable areas such as recycling or reuse as well. So it's helping to keep and generate more money that stays within the local economy too, and supporting a whole new range of business models and sustainable business practices, which will set the tone for where the economy is going in the future. Furthermore, zero waste approach by separating at source as much waste as possible and therefore reducing the volume of the residual waste, what's left. The key part of this is this seeking to improve and not resting on our laurels. And to do that, zero waste cities conduct residual waste analysis and assessments to look at, okay, now that we've started implementing this system, what's left? What can we still do to tackle, to improve our policies and to minimize the waste as possible? And this may range, it may be, okay, there's still a lot of organic waste, for example, left in the residuals. We may need to increase the ability to compost and provide these facilities, or we might want to increase education and awareness about certain plastics that could be recycled that aren't being are left in a residual waste, for example. Or on the other hand, if there are certain products or materials that keep on being placed onto the market by certain businesses that are just simply unrecyclable, with this data and analysis, you can make the case and say, look, this is just not, we can't do anything with this material. And so whether that's at the national level or the businesses themselves, we're really saying, these kind of materials, these kind of products should not be placed on the market. Only those that are recyclable or compostable or reusable and repairable, of course, as a preferred option. And so the Zero Waste Cities program, what we coordinate on, is the second part of this presentation. And to summarize, to sort of open up, our approach of cities and communities here in Europe can be described as this continuous effort to phase out waste, as I mentioned, not simply by burning or landfilling it, but instead by creating and implementing systems that simply do not generate waste in the first place. And so you're implementing local circular economies that are driven by the community, where data, feedback, consultation is embedded within the heart of these local strategies. And I think the first part of this sentence is key, a continuous effort. Within the Zero Waste Cities program, we work with newcomers who have just started their journey towards zero waste and maybe recycling 15, 20, 25%. We also work with Europe's best performing municipalities that recycle 80% and above. And yet one thing they all have in common is that desire to keep on improving. Whether you're recycling 9 or 90%, there's still improvement that can be made. And therefore, to look, as I mentioned before, to assess what's left, to continue to see, okay, we may think we've gone as far as we can in recycling. In the best scenarios, there's more can be done to engage the local community or to build new zero waste business models to help create more jobs. There's always optimization and improvement that can be made. And this philosophy is not only exciting, motivational, but it's a key part of the commitment that we at Zero Waste Europe the cry of the zero waste cities that we work with. And so the program, as an overview, we work with nearly 400 municipalities who have made concrete commitments and steps to design, implement, and monitor their own zero waste strategies across Europe, inside and outside the European Union, in 10 different countries, ranging from the United Kingdom and Germany, Italy being our most common location for zero waste cities, to places Romania, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Croatia, as well. So a wide range of contexts, which showcases the strength of the zero waste cities model, and that it can be applied, different income levels, different contexts, rural, urban, sorry, as well. And we do this, as I mentioned, through our network of local and national coordinators at Zero Waste Europe, who we train and support and guide to then do the work on a daily basis on the ground with municipalities to become the go-to players for zero waste. From here in Brussels, what we do at Zero Waste Europe, we help capture and collect some of the best practices, and we model frontrunners. We try to showcase that, zero waste is not just a fanciful vision that we'd love to think of the future, but actually concrete, tangible policies that are being implemented in a wide range of contexts that are proven to lead to waste reduction, to more jobs, to cost savings, and obviously less pollution, less greenhouse gas emissions too. And finally, we are taking our learning and experiences over the past decade, and we'll soon be launching the first ever Zero Waste City certification. Certification will be a more formal, robust way of verifying and supporting municipalities to become truly zero waste. And it's really excitingly, the criteria to become certified is municipalities' to-do list. We often hear from local authorities, oh yes, we agree with the vision of zero waste, but we don't know where to start or where to begin. By using the certification, the criteria, you have a tailor-made, ready list of things to get you going as a municipality. And so that's we are planning to launch this from March 2021, and then beyond, to begin rolling out across Europe from then onwards. So this just summarizes a bit of what we do at Zero Waste Europe. Here I mentioned capturing best practices and modeling frontrunners. So for example, we create case studies on different best examples of zero waste municipalities. So for example, top left is a case from ZWIA, a rural municipality in Romania, that in the space of just a couple of months went from recycling just 1% bare minimum to 40%. Now it's gone way above and beyond that, and it's achieving what is required of the European Union, which many municipalities, over 50% probably in Europe, aren't. The bottom pictures you'll see, we also run study tours and workshops to train municipality officials, interested groups about zero waste, and support the local design of these strategies. Because as I mentioned, the Zero Waste Cities model, as I get onto in a second, provides the framework. What you need is the local knowledge and to be able to tailor it to the context, which will mean it's much more likely to succeed if it's based in local data and reflects the local realities lived by the community. Finally, on the right-hand side, we create reports and briefings that showcase the benefits of going zero waste, different practices, different models, not just of zero waste cities, but also good zero waste practices found in different cities that have yet to fully commit to go zero waste. And so, as I just mentioned there, this basic framework of a zero waste city, what does that mean? This is a very text-heavy slide, so I apologize, but this is the sort of the foundation of any zero waste city that we work with. To begin with, what is ultimately most important is the door-to-door, so curbside, so just outside the home, collection of separate waste streams as much as possible. So for example, you're looking at basics, paper and cardboard, some plastics or metals, and then perhaps glass, so that could be on the street, and other materials. The key thing here is of organics, of course, separately collecting organics and having an effective treatment for these, for food waste and garden waste is absolutely critical, because not only would this often have, if you collect organics, you can reduce the residual waste by 40, 50, 60% immediately, is that if you effectively manage organics at the home, then the residual waste, quite simply, is easier to manage. It's less smelly, it requires less collection, therefore you can optimize the rounds more. And it means that there's less contamination in both, well, various different waste streams for recyclable materials, and therefore an effective organic waste system to treat this kind of waste has benefits on the other waste streams, and therefore for a municipality, you can much more likely to increase the revenue from selling on these recyclers because they're of a higher quality. The residual waste assessments, as I mentioned, to really analyze the most problematic materials and products that remain in the residual waste bin, and using this data to optimize the system is the key sort of outcome and policy that we see of zero waste cities. Economic incentives to push waste reduction further. So often we will advocate and support the implementation of what's known as a pay-as-you-throw system. These can be high-tech, where you have sort of radio frequency identification chips on households bins or bags, or in the waste truck. Or these can be relatively low-tech, ones that just simply provide an incentive that punishes those who generates the most waste, rather than an incentivize, those to generate the least volume of waste. Fourthly, as I mentioned at the start, a zero waste city, this mentality to openly engage with and partner with the community is key. And we will often help set up advisory boards or other zero waste family challenges, programs for businesses or schools that raise awareness of what zero waste is, showcase how important and how easy it is to reduce waste in many circumstances, and to really bring the community on this journey so that they feel like it's not being forced upon them, but that they have ownership and trust and buy-in to the system, and therefore is much more likely to lead to successful results. Not only looking at recycling, but to go further up the zero waste hierarchy, to look at measures to prevent waste from being generated. So certain initiatives such as helping establish reuse and repair centers, or fostering and facilitating packaging-free buy in bulk culture for shopping. Reusable nappies is a growing policy that we see here, cloth nappies rather than single-use ones, and supporting businesses and various other organizations to really effectively implement deposit return schemes for food, beverage containers, and other materials too, in the best case scenarios. And then finally, as I mentioned, this key philosophy about looking inwards to continuously seek improving. So what can the municipality do themselves today to reduce waste? What can be done within public events, in public spaces, such as public water fountains, to de-incentivize plastic bottles for water? And often that's sometimes overlooked, but can have a huge impact, is public procurement services of a municipality. And this graphic is really just a short summary of the benefits that zero waste can bring for municipality, starting with, if you have less waste, less litter to manage on the streets, at the household, you can save costs through the fees that is often required for waste incineration or waste that's being sent to landfill. You can often save and optimize costs in the collection rounds and in the cleaning of streets, which can then go back into either less costs and less taxes for the citizens, or re-putting that funding elsewhere into the public system. For example, we have examples whereby money has been saved from the waste management budget and instead gone on public health or education. Of course, there is the huge impact, the positive impact this will have on the environment. through less pollution, less greenhouse gas emissions, but also the citizens are less at risk of, open to harmful chemicals in packaging and through other toxics in the air that incineration and landfilling provides. And then there's also the social and the cultural and the economic benefits too, about like bringing communities together on this journey, using existing expertise to fix electrical goods, retired individuals, connecting them with perhaps those who are unemployed to create these reuse and repair centers. Just one example of how the community benefits as a whole through better integration, better innovation as well. And more money simply flows through the local economy and stays within the local economy in a sustainable manner. So finally, the last part of my presentation, I just wanted to highlight, yes, this is all well and good basically of me sitting here and saying these things, but how are they actually being put into practice across Europe? So some successful examples. I'm going to start in Italy. Italy was the birthplace of zero waste cities in Europe in 2007 in a municipality called Capanari, which is near Lucca in Tuscany. But for example, I'm going to highlight an example here from the Treviso region of the waste management company Contarina, who are responsible for 49 municipalities, and they are a zero waste champion. So what you see here, for example, on the right-hand side to begin with, you have Capanari's recycling rate of these municipalities, 85%. So, one of the best in the world, let alone in Europe or Italy. And you compare that with the Italian average, which is 30% higher in Contarina. Not only are you recycling more, but you're doing so in one of the cheapest systems. So on the left here, you have the average household fee from different waste management companies within the broader sort of province that Contarina is in. And so, it's almost half the top rate. And so it's this fantastic balance that zero waste brings, whereby it's highly effective, but also highly cost effective too, because there's less waste to manage, it's more optimized, the system runs smoother, and people are keeping resources and therefore value within the local economy. Moving to Slovenia now, in 2008, you'll see here this chart. Slovenia was in the mid-table in terms of recycling and composting, the yellow and the light green colors here. Move on 10 years, and Slovenia is now in the top 3 of the European Union. Even then, since 2019, it's probably moved into the top 2 or top 1. The amount of recycling and composting that it does. And this is all done on a very low incineration capacity as well, nationally. And you'll see here, so in Slovenia, we have a small network of 9 municipalities. And this table just nicely showcases the separate collection rates when you compare that to the European Union. So for example, the best performing is 83% compared to the European Union average, which is about 56, 57%. For example, here we've included the recycling rate, which, rather than a separate collection. And then also, if you look at the issue more broadly, which is the total amount of waste generated per capita, not just residual waste, you'll see that many municipalities are way, way below the European average as well. So again, it's that combination of highly effective collection, recycling, coupled with waste prevention measures as well. And you'll see these ambitious targets to continuously improve. One of the municipalities for those eagle-eyed participants is the capital city, Ljubljana of Slovenia, which was the first zero waste capital of Europe. And these 2 slides again just highlight the decrease in residual waste within Ljubljana since it sort of started to adopt its zero waste practices around the early 2010s. And then again, combine the 2 obviously are hand in hand, whereby you're reducing the residual waste and therefore the amount that is incinerated or sent to landfill by simply having an effective separate collection door-to-door system in place. and the volume of biowaste that's collected and composted in Slovenia and Ljubljana, sorry, has grown hugely over the past 15 years too, which is, as I mentioned before, is a key waste fraction to target for previously mentioned reasons. Moving on to Germany. Germany has been one of Europe's best performing recycling countries, but it also has been one of the countries that has the highest rates of waste generation. And so we have, very excitingly, our first zero waste city in Kiel for Germany, on the North Sea, north side of Germany. And the strategy really is a comprehensive overview of how to engage the community, the city in this strategy, how to set clear goals in terms of they want to be recycling 70% and above, whilst reducing the volume of waste that's generated by 15% year upon year. I would recommend to those online to check out Kiel's strategy that is available in English as well. Finally, one example of, rather than a zero waste city, to look at the region, the district of Pontevedra within the northwest of Spain, and focus on one aspect of the zero waste strategy, as I mentioned, which is community composting, which has huge benefits because not only does it tackle, as I said, reduces the volume of residual waste by 30, 50, 70%, depending on the context. But you have a simple, easy way to recycle that's cheap and effective, and that the results, the compost can be put back to good use within the local economy. So it's a win-win-win situation. And so, yeah, in Pontevedra in Spain, they decided to implement a decentralized, community-led composting system, whereas before all of the biowaste was sent to a local incinerator. And after just 3 years, since 2019, 2020, and going into now 2021, more than 2,000 tons of biowaste has been locally composted. And this is just a sort of a startup project that is now growing and growing. And what we've actually seen from Pontevedra is evidence about the economic savings from community composting. So not only are we having a huge effect to reduce the amount of biowaste that's sent for incineration and landfilling, but of course, there are some initial setup costs involved, but data shows that once organic capture rates were above 40%, and that is when the costs really rapidly go down of the system, because the volume of residual organic waste, is increasing and increasing, and then it sort of plateaus about once you get to 75% of the organic waste that's generated that is being collected and then used for composting, and within community set up bins whereby the municipality of Pontevedra trained and supported master composters to help households use community bins, whereby each household would, about 20 or 30, would have one bin within their local area, which they would take obviously their food and garden waste, and would know how to mix this in together and how to sort of month upon month keep it sort of healthy, keep the oxygen flowing, and how to treat it effectively, so that after a period of about 3 months or more, there was healthy, nutritious compost that could be used by local farmers. And then this summary to end with, about if you look at the cost per ton of waste generated, local composting is, once the system's up and running, is 2 to 3 times less costly than incineration. So not only is it effective, but then you're saving a huge volume of euros. So for example, here, the cheapest is to compost at the home, but obviously this can't be done in every household, those that don't have a garden or the facilities. And so community composting then is a second, or a local composting, or in some cases anaerobic digestion plant. Finally, just 2 quick slides about some of the key policies that we believe that all zero waste cities should be pushing towards, and all municipalities should be working towards. And this is what we've seen. This is really summarized as some of the successful policies. First and foremost is this commitment to move away from the rigid residual waste treatment methods such as incineration. Setting a commitment to phase out by simply reducing the residual waste, and you do this from having an effective separate collection system, it really sends a strong signal of the intent of the city's zero waste goals, its decarbonisation goals, and also renewable energy strategies. In some cases, if, for example, an incinerator is tied to the heating system, because what you're saying is we're going to be generating less waste, we're also going to be looking at much more carbon friendly renewable energy sources to replace the energy that would have been used from burning waste into local heating or other power sources. 100% collection, this is what we've discussed before, but ensuring that all of the population of the municipality has very close or curbside sort of ability to collect or separate and then therefore have their waste collected, with organics being the biggest priority. And what we see here often, yes, the challenges remain in densely populated cities such as with, many high-rise buildings, and that's where sort of accountability issues occur. But in Milan, the capital of Italy, it captures 105 kilograms of food waste of about 120 generated. So you're looking at 87.5%, proving that it can be done and it can be done effectively. Continually finding the data and assessing what's left of the residual waste, cannot recommend this enough. It's so important to understand how the impact of the zero waste strategy has been, if you're already sort of implementing it, or to see where you are, using the data to drive and feed the design of policies is absolutely crucial if the local zero waste strategy is going to be successful. Making sure that waste prevention is embedded within all of the local municipalities' policies and strategies. And so you can do this, for example, by setting key targets, legally binding targets about reducing not only the volume of residual waste, but the total waste generated by citizens. That's often sets the tone, and having that clear vision and strategy allows the rest of the ecosystem and the framework of a community to fall in behind. Municipalities often have various economic, regulatory, and sometimes voluntary instruments that they can use to prevent waste. So what we would say here, local ordinances, so bans on single-use plastics, or local measures, sort of behavioral nudges set up in streets or in certain businesses, or, as you mentioned, extra charges to those who produce the most waste, or those who continue, those businesses that put the most problematic non-recyclable waste streams, continuously on the market. Finally, zero waste is, this approach is a challenge, of course, and we want to continue improving, but also there's extreme excitement and joy and pride in saying, you know what, we are going to become a leader in this, and we're really going to take it upon ourselves to tackle the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and the pollution crisis that we are urgently facing as a planet. And so to do this, we're saying we're going to stand up, we're going to take measures, we're going to be held accountable and work with the community to be effective and to bring with it the several benefits economically, environmentally, of course, but also socially and culturally, and sort of set a sustainable framework to work towards in the future. That is exciting, something to be proud about, and this is something we really push all zero waste municipalities and all cities as a whole to sort of embed, because it's a key component of becoming zero waste. So this is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you for inviting me to speak today, and thank you for those who have listened throughout the presentation. For more information about how Zero Waste Cities work, you can go to our website, which is here on the slide, or you can drop me an email directly or message on social media. So thank you very much, and I wish you a great day.